Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. I am your host, Corwin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. If this is your first time listening to this show, you, sir or ma'am, are in for a treat because our mission here is very simple. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. We're legacy building. That is what we do. So if you're out there making things happen with your family for the generations yet to come, our word teaches us to leave a legacy, to leave an inheritance for our children, and so forth and so on. We want you to put a hashtag on that thing that says that you are legacy building, because that is what you are doing. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Anchor FM. You can also find us on Instagram, at our website, exitstrategiesradioshow.com. You can catch us in a number of different places on your favorite podcast applications. We appreciate you listening. Please share this content with your friends, your family, your coworkers, even those in your groups, your church groups, etc., guys, because sometimes the message and the word that we are speaking here today is for you. Sometimes it is for someone else that you know. Again, we appreciate you listening. Let's get started. Good morning. This is Corwin Millett. You are listening to Exit Strategies. Here in the studio, I have with me the infamous Robert Wilson Jr. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Good morning, everyone out there. Thank you for listening with us.
Guys, Exit Strategy is a radio show designed to take you from one place to another. The Bible talks about, in the book of Exodus, people being moved from one land to another, to their promise. Guys, we're looking to exit you, to provide an exodus in your life for your financial well-being. So please make sure that you stay tuned. You listen out for us every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. as we will be bringing you tips, tricks, techniques. We'll give you some nuggets. We'll give you some Corwinisms and some of those things to help make your life a much better one. All right, so Rob, let's talk a little bit today about preparing your home to sell.
Yes, this is one of the most important aspects, I think, of real estate in general. A lot of people think selling your house is easy. Oh, the market's on fire. Or someone's going to buy my house in 5 minutes. Well, no, you got to prepare it. And not just the physical aspects of the house, but have your paperwork in order, know what you owe, know who you owe, and you need to look at your bottom line to make sure that selling will work for you, or that is the best decision for you as well.
Wow. So you got some passion about this one, this subject matter today.
I'm a listing specialist. So this one hits close to home. It makes my life a lot easier when I have sellers who understand, hey, it's not just about you selling your house. It's about, does this sale work for you? Okay. And if you're serious about doing this, I need you to do your part so I can make sure I do my job as well.
Awesome. Now that was a mouthful right there. So for you listeners out there today, guys, we're going to be talking from the seller's perspective. Now that does not mean that if you are, a potential purchaser looking to own your own property, that you don't listen. You need to listen, because you need to understand. And for today's show, you need to understand what a seller should be going through preparing. It's almost like preparing for your bride, so to speak. If you think about it, yeah, because preparing for house guests. So, the conversation, the subject matter for today, preparing your home to sell, is really, what are you doing to prepare for that buyer? What kind of product are you looking at delivering to this buyer? And there's a lot of different ways to do this. So if you're a buyer, guys, don't tune out simply because of that. Definitely listen, because again, some of this subject matter is going to be very relevant to you. However, if you are a seller, if you're a potential seller, you're thinking about, putting your home on the market, guys, you may want to grab a pad and pen today and make some notes for sure. So Rob, let's approach this from this perspective, if you will. So I'm a seller or potential seller. I have a home that I bought, let's say maybe early 2000s, around 2000, between 2000, 2002, 2003, some place during that time period. And I'm thinking about possibly putting my home on the market. decided, the children are gone or whoever's gone. And, I'm looking at maybe downsizing or, maybe I want to go to a home with less maintenance. I have a detached house, cutting grass, all those things. And I want to get away from that. I want to get to maybe a townhouse or something with less maintenance. So I ain't got to worry about all that stuff. What's the first thing that I should do?
Call me. No, but you want to contact a realtor and you want to request, write this down, a market analysis. And what a market analysis does, it takes your property and it compares it to similar properties in your area or in your neighborhood to show you what you could possibly get for your home if you list it. Once you get that information, look at what you owe, and you can kind of estimate a bottom line for yourself. You may even, I know we do it. Everyone doesn't do it, but we like to give people an estimate of, hey, once fees have come out, here's what you're looking at, your bottom line. Then you need to go ahead and plan what you're going to do next. Okay, my house sells. What's the next step? Because I know for us, we like to help you plan throughout, not just the transaction with us, but what are you doing next? Because if we can help you with the next step, we're going to do that as well.
Wow, that was profound. So, and that's a very valid point, because oftentimes people get focused on just one part of the process. The process of selling a home entails the thought, the action, the subsequent necessary actions. Mm-hmm. Because if you sell the home, you gotta move.
Yep,
gotta move. I assume the person that bought the house may want to move into it.
You're right.
So now you have to plan all those other steps behind the scenes. Where am I going to go to? Am I buying another house? Am I renting? What am I doing when I'm making these transitions? Mm-hmm. So you also touched on something else there. And, guys, I'm going to give you, because Rob just said it actually, but I'm going to take credit for it today. And I'm going to say the nugget in what you just said. One of the first things you want to do, guys, is get a market analysis. Now, understand that a market analysis is not just for a seller. Buyers need those too. They want to know and should be able to compare a property they're interested in to or against another. However, here's something for you guys to keep in mind. Your home, as it relates to its value, it has a potential value. So every home has a potential. Think about it this way. If you're the guy, the gal, whoever it is, you dress up, you look one way, but you dress down and you don't specifically dress up, you look another way. That's the same thing with houses. So houses have a potential value associated with them. If I am at my peak and I'm at my best, if I have the best finishes and this, that, and the third, or the best finishes for that particular area, then at that point in time, I've maximized my value. So, we call it, from, education perspective, there's a potential value again for every property. So you have to make sure the home is meeting its potential. Now, granted, it doesn't mean that you need to go out. If you're a seller thinking about selling and go out and put all new flooring in, all new cabinets and redo everything, that may not be necessary. Because one of the first things that we have to do, that you should be doing, is comparing your property to other houses in the neighborhood. Not simply based upon for price, because I get that one. Oh man, I get that one all the time. Well, my neighbor just sold for, $200,000. So why are you telling me that I'm only worth 150? Well, your neighbor's house was twice the size of yours.
Exactly.
Or it was this amount of square feet larger, or it had this particular thing in it. So you need to make sure that you're doing an apples to apples, if you will, comparison. As you approach this. Another thing that you should do, make sure your house is show ready.
Yes.
That's a big one, ain't it?
That is a huge one. Not show ready in your opinion, but there's a little bit of a standard that goes there.
Well, you want to make sure that people will be comfortable coming into your home. So, that's a very, your comfort may be different than somebody else's. I know obviously in our experiences, we've had some people that were full blown, like it didn't even look like anybody lived in the house. The house was so neat. Like nobody had ever lived there, was that neat and that clean. But then you also have other situations where it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So one thing, here's something, again, another, I don't know, nugget, if you will. People have to be able to see themselves there. So the consumer has to be able to see themselves in that house. If you're a buyer, think about this. When you walk into a home and you're viewing a property, you have to be able to see how your furniture is going to lay out in that house. If you can't envision or imagine yourself in that space, you'll never pick that space. So from a seller's perspective, guys, you have to make sure that your home is ready. Your home is show ready. It has to be furnished in a manner that allows people to see how, where they may be able to position their furniture and in turn be able to envision themselves there. And the seller that gets that right, is the seller that sells first.
I agree with you. And I'm going to give another little nugget here. Corwin has been talking a lot about the person who's going to end up buying your house. Well, guess what? You have to make your house available to be seen as well. So if you're living there, obviously, whether you're working or you're retired, you have to put some flex in your schedule so that people can see your home. That means someone might want to see your home 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 5:30, or on a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon. So you have to also prepare for that. So in making sure that your house is show ready, you have to keep it that way because yes, you'll get, advance notice of your showings, but you can't keep turning them down because you don't feel like it or because you don't want to, because then that defeats the purpose of you trying to sell your house. They have to be able to see it. So we need that flexibility in your schedule.
One of the things that I know that I've ran into a lot over my years is the thought process from the seller side. And buyers, this is very relevant. So you have to be able to understand the positions for each party. Typically we approach real estate from an adversarial position where the buyer is against the seller is against the buyer. The buyer wants to get the lowest price, and the seller wants to get the highest price. But in truth, here's a Corwinism for you. That's not the reality. Reality is that everybody wants the best deal. So the seller wants the best deal, the best opportunity for their property. The buyer wants the best deal and the best opportunity for them. It may or may not depend upon price. For every person that always focuses on and harbors on price, the best deal for a seller may be the deal that allows them to rent the house back for a month or two while they're transitioning out of the area. It might not be a price. It might just be that.
That's very, very true. And sometimes it might be the buyer themselves. If I had a coworker once who had their house for sale and they had 3 offers. But someone wrote a personal letter stating their situation, that they really loved the house, and they were the lowest of the 3 offers, but that's who ended up getting the house. So it goes back to what Corwin just said. It's not about the money. It's about, 2 people working together. The buyer's trying to accomplish something, the seller's trying to accomplish something.
So you want to make sure that you are asking questions in the process. And, Rob, this actually, funny enough, actually brings us up to our first break. So we'll pause here, put the pause in it and pick it up. Guys, for you out there listening, this is Exit Strategies. I'm your host, Corwin Millette. Please stay tuned. Tune back in. We'll be right back after this quick break.
For real estate agents, there's not much financial security. When the only income streams are taking listings and making sales, agents tend to live paycheck to paycheck, spending their commission in advance and rarely saving for the future. You're only as good as your last transaction, and when you stop selling, your income stops flowing. But all over the US and Canada, real estate professionals have discovered an additional revenue stream that fills in the gaps between closings and gives them a financial future that has never existed in real estate before. This new revenue stream is called sponsoring, and it's made possible by Exit Realty. Through sponsoring, agents earn residual income by introducing other agents to the Exit system. It's not a multi-level scheme. It's a proven single-level system that works a lot like it does in the music and insurance industries. You do the work once and get paid over and over again. For example, Mary is an agent with Exit Realty, and John is an agent with another brokerage. Mary thinks that John would enjoy working at Exit Realty too, so she introduces him to her broker, and he is hired. At Exit Realty, he will immediately start on a 70-30 commission split. That's 70% to him, As a reward, Mary will instantly receive a residual bonus paid by Exit Realty Corp International every time John closes a deal as an Exit Realty agent. Mary's bonus is the equivalent of 10% of John's gross commissions, and Mary's bonus doesn't affect John at all because it isn't paid from his 70%. So if John is producing $50,000 a year, that's a realistic annual income. That's an additional $5,000 every year in Mary's pocket. That $5,000 quickly grows to a much higher number when you start multiplying it. If Mary sponsored, say, 10 people into Exit, all producing $50,000 a year, that's an extra $50,000 a year on top of her own commissions. Now imagine Mary's bank balance if John earned $75,000 or $100,000 a year. It sure adds up. By the way, when John's commission hits $100,000, his commission increases from 70% to 90%. The money is flowing everywhere. The great thing about sponsoring with Exit Realty is that when Mary decides to retire or take a break from real estate, her 10% residuals automatically turn into 7% retirement benefits. Finally, a real estate company that cares about your retirement. For as long as the agents that Mary sponsored continue working at Exit Realty and are closing deals, Mary will continue receiving the equivalent of 7% of their gross commissions. Plus, when you join Exit Realty, you designate someone special as your beneficiary, and should anything happen to you, all of your sponsoring residuals instantly turn into the equivalent of 5% beneficiary benefits, so your loved ones are taken care of. Exit Realty agents get a piece of the action from the 10% sponsoring residuals and true peace of mind from the 7% retirement benefits and 5% beneficiary benefits. So just imagine, if you sponsored 10 people into Exit Realty, each earning $100,000 a year, that's $1 million in your bank account in 10 years. Could you do anything with that? What are the chances of you having $1 million in your bank account doing what you're presently doing? And with Exit, you can be confident knowing that you're backed by a top award-winning brand with world-class training and digital marketing tools. A company that's dedicated to helping you and the agents you sponsor achieve success. Exit Realty is the formula that works. You owe it to yourself and your family to take a closer look.
And we're back. You're listening to Exit Strategies. I'm your host, Corwin J. Millett, broker owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group. I have in the studio with me none other than the infamous Robert Wilson Jr. Robert, say hello to the folks.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, our topic today is preparing to sell. So we're talking about, from a real estate perspective, preparing yourself, preparing your home for the process of selling. Now, again, guys, if you are not a potential seller, you don't own a home already, you may be thinking about buying one, you still should pay attention to this show because we're going to give you some insights in how you can better and best deal with the seller in today's market. Again, in today's market. So we were just finishing up right before the break and trying to wrap up before the break, talking about the potential or the different types of seller, making sure that we understand the positions, the roles of each party. We talked about, or we touched on briefly, most people approach purchasing a home from a seller as from an adversarial perspective. They're against it, one person's trying to pay the least, the other person's trying to get the most, versus looking at it from a different perspective. Because most times what you'll find is that folks are actually just looking for the best deal, and that deal may be price, it may be some other type of situation, it may be for a buyer. A buyer may have a lease that they have to finish up, so they may need a seller that can stay on for a little bit longer, something of that nature. So that's huge, and you want to make sure you're searching out and seeking out the best deal, the best opportunity for you, and that's what you do with your agent. That's definitely something that you do with your agent.
Definitely. Also, for you out there who are thinking about selling your home, make sure you keep the lines of communication open. As a listing specialist, it's important that I'm able to contact you, whether it's text, email, phone call, to give you your weekly updates. And I'm going to be giving you recommendations. So I'm going to also want to, when I share that feedback, I need to hear back from you to see if you're okay with things, because part of my job is to make sure that I get the home sold. But if I can't communicate with you, I can't really do anything beyond having your house listed, doing open houses and things of that nature. But I need to hear from you as well.
One of the things that, we run into oftentimes in the industry, Rob, and I know that you've definitely seen and experienced it quite a bit. One of the things that, people oftentimes make the mistake of believing is that there is limited work being done by the agents in the process. And, there's an old analogy, and matter of fact, this may actually be a real Cohenism today for those who are listening. Hashtag CORWYNISM, Corwinism. This process really is like that old, analogy of the duck on the pond.
Mm-hmm.
And see, you really, the duck is, just kind of drifting along. They're getting to, from one bank to another or wherever they're going. But you don't know what's going on beneath the surface. So if you peek below the surface of the water, you'll see that duck just kicking away. That's what your agent typically is doing in a real estate transaction to you listeners out there, whether it be an agent that's working for you as a buyer or working for you as a seller. They are constantly looking for angles, looking for positions, looking for ways to better and best serve and assist you and get that property sold. Because in full disclosure, looking at the big picture, if it doesn't get done, they don't get compensated for it.
Yep, and I hear that. I hear that from a lot of people. They'll say, "Well, I know you want to get paid," and they think about the money. I'm like, well, one, I want you to be okay. A real estate transaction for most of us is going to be the biggest financial decision we make in our lives. I want it to be a pleasant one, especially if I'm involved. Buying, selling, I want it to be a pleasant one. I don't want you to think about the time you lost out on $30,000 or $40,000 because of Robert Wilson Jr. I want you smiling when you move into that house. I want you smiling whether or not when you're moving out of that house. So it's definitely about putting in that work. And do we want to get paid? Absolutely. But I think it benefits us more in the long run if we take care of you, because then you can refer your friends and family back to me so I can take care of them as well.
And that's what it's about. It's a relationship. It's a relationship, business. So that goes back to or brings me to that next things we talked about that preparing to sell. Sellers, as well as buyers, as consumers in this process, you have to be open with your agent. There is nothing that is more frustrating than getting down the road on a transaction with a client and then finding out something that they didn't share with you in the beginning that was very relevant to the transaction. You run into situations where there are debts or other things that are encumbering the title, all kind of things. And there is nothing more frustrating than finding yourself in that situation, especially when you have a whole host of other people that are involved in the transaction and everyone has been working towards completion and you find yourself not being able to complete it.
It's funny you mention that. Let me tell you all something. We've seen a lot of things. We've dealt with a lot of situations. What you may think is impossible might be quite possible because of something we've already done before. So don't hide it. Let me know. I might not like it, but that just means I need to take this route versus this other route.
I tell consumers, and especially sellers, I've had this conversation, when the market was down and it was difficult to get anything done. I had a transaction one time where this particular property had 7 different liens on it. It was a short sale situation. Seller was extremely upside down. It was an awful situation. But the seller in that particular, transaction, was someone that I grew fond of, which is something that happens. You're working with people, you're trying to help them meet their goals. They really just wanted to avoid the foreclosure if they could. But, notwithstanding, they was in a situation, they just needed some help. So in my process of dealing with this property, I remember this as profound as I remember, probably the last 2 minutes of what I've done today. I remember one of my partners, business partners, attorney partner in the transaction, he told me, he said, Cole, you'll never get it done, man. Just leave it alone. Give up, move on to something else. You'll never get it done. Mm. And my words to him was this. I said, look, I appreciate that. He said, but as long as I see a light, as long as I think I can still get it done, man, I'm going to keep working on it. And I remember visiting my client because they got moved to a nursing home. And I remember visiting them in a nursing home, and they pat my hand and, sweetie, I show you showing up working hard for me. I really appreciate it. You ain't got to do it. I said, well, no, I understand. Well, I said, look, I'm just going to keep going. As long as I see some light at the end of the tunnel, I'm going to keep going. And that's what I did. And everything began to line up and get in place. And we know what it was, but everything lined up and got in place. And we was able to close that transaction and make that deal work and get that property sold for that seller. Countless other agents would have stopped and given up. That's the difference when you have a connection with a client. And that's what you have to be able to communicate about with your agent. Guys, we're coming up on our next break. Please stay tuned. You're listening to Exit Strategies. All right, and we're back. Hey, you're listening to Exit Strategies. I'm your host, Corwin J. Millette, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group. Wear a few other hats. I have with me in the studio the infamous Rob Wilson. Rob, tell them folks what's happening.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Look here, we've had an action-packed show. We talked about preparing to sell. And this isn't just from the home perspective. This isn't just preparing the home. It's preparing yourself as well. We've walked the seller through some of the things they need to be aware of, some of the things they need to consider, some of the things they otherwise need to prepare themselves for mentally. You got to be open. But we haven't limited this conversation, guys, to just sellers. We've talked about, if you're a buyer in a transaction or looking to be a buyer, these things are relevant to you as well, because you need to have an understanding of what it is that happens from the seller perspective, what they need to be doing as well. So, Rob, it's been a lot of content, a big show, man.
A lot of nuggets in this one. I think y'all hit the jackpot.
Yeah. So, for those of you who missed it, make sure you look for our social media page, Exit Strategies. Again, Exit EXIT Strategies. You can find us there. You can contact us at our office too, Exit Realty Low Country Group. That is in North Charleston. Phone number is 843-619-3005. Again, 843-619-3005. You can find me on Facebook as well, myself personally, on my personal page, C Millette. That's CMELETTE. Guys, check us out, follow us, let us know that you like the show. I want to hear from you. Look for our show content to be posted there as well. And most importantly, guys, you can give a shout here to the station so they in turn can pass the word along to us as well. If you like what you're hearing, if you want more information, and you want a particular subject, you want more details on it, maybe you're scared to ask a professional, feel free to give a call into the station or even give us a call in the office. We'll be glad to help. So, Rob, we're at that time, man.
What time is that?
Man, we're at that time for the property of the week. So what we got this week?
2066 Vestry Drive in Charleston, South Carolina, west of the Ashley. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a 1-car garage, nice spacious backyard, nice quiet neighborhood, single-story house for those of you not looking to climb any stairs. I will be doing an open house there today from 12 to 3 p.m.
12 to 3. 2066 Vestry Drive, Charleston, 29414, guys. That's West Ashley. Please swing by, meet the infamous Rob Wilson Jr. This is my partner right here. Great people. Come by, get some information on the property, and register for a prize. We're gonna do a little giveaway this week. A little bit of a secret there, guys. You've been listening to Exit Strategy. We hope that we have changed your position today. We hope we've moved you from where you are on the way to where you're going. Please enjoy the rest of your week. Again, my name is Corwin Millette. Thank you for listening to Exit Strategies.